Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my entitled neighbor called the police on me and my friends for having a barbecue party in my own garden. When the police refused to remove me from my own property, she completely flipped out and threatened to shoot me. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. This is actually a pretty recent incident that happened shortly after I moved to a suburb in Houston with my wife and our two little girls. My mother is Korean while my father is Vietnamese, and they met when they were attending their college in Oklahoma and had me soon after they settled down in that same city. So while I am very obviously Asian in my looks, my accent tells everyone that I've been born and raised in the US. My wife's uncle helped us pick the nice neighborhood that was only an hour away from his own house and only a 15 minutes walk to a nice school that we had picked for our girls. It's only our first day moving in and we are already being warned about the infamous Karen of this neighborhood. Now, I know every place has one, but I was glad to see that here everyone agreed that she was a douchebag. I was personally not worried about any comments directed to myself. You kind of get used to people being entitled and judging you, but my daughters were already struggling because of a change of schools and I wanted them to have as easy of a move as possible. The Karen's house was across the road from us, but we were at least happy for the neighbors on our side who were mixed-race couples as well and hence understood our problems. But of course, one cannot escape danger when it was literally hell-bent on finding you. Just like other residents, we too could not dodge the many nasty encounters with this Karen. The first week of our stay had been quiet, but the next week this Karen had knocked at our door and told us to mow our lawn because the tall grass did not suit the look of this neighborhood. I told her that we had literally moved in a week ago and we had too much on our plate to care about the damn grass, but of course it would not go through her thick skull. I had quickly given up on making sense with her and nodded before shutting the door in her face. Later that same week I had found a note stuck on our car that said we needed to replace it because it was too cheap and again did not suit the neighborhood. I had asked our neighbors about it and they had sighed like it has happened before. Apparently it had, and dozens of times at that. This Karen had some kind of view for their neighborhood and she would regularly police others who did not follow her view. Which in fact also included not sunbathing in your own garden and not having pets that make too much noise, not having kids that make too much noise, since she had screamed at us multiple times when our girls would play in our own garden and had even threatened to call police when we played piano in our own house in the morning. And above all, she was one of those preachy vegans who wanted none of us to have any kind of barbecue parties but wanted to be invited to the event. I was told that there had once been a big vegetarian celebration thrown by an Indian couple that she had not been invited to because obviously who would want to spend even a second around her? And then she had gone on Facebook to complain about the outside culture that had taken residence in her neighborhood and ruined it. So let us recount: a-hole, controlling, irritating vegan, party pooper, and also xenophobic classic Karen if you ask me. But that was that, and I had honestly learned to tune her whining out, opting to only talk to the sane neighbors around me. After 3 months had passed since we moved in our new house, my wife had suggested we would throw a small party. I know many of our neighbors enjoyed Korean barbecues that was served only in a few restaurants nearby, so I had thought, why not? It had been a while since I had thrown a proper Korean barbecue anyway, and we all needed a break after moving. So I had planned everything. I brought all the ingredients and steaks from the Asian market nearby and had decided to throw it on a Saturday so that everyone can attend. Everyone except one person, of course. It had started off real nice though. The sun was not too harsh that noon and everyone had settled down nicely in the open space, making small takes and taking portions of the barbecue. And of course that was when the Karen had chosen to strike. She had yelled from across the street that we needed to stop this murder party and turn off the grill because the meat fumes were giving her a headache. I honest to God have no idea what she had meant by all that, but the bottom line was that she wanted us to stop the barbecue. Which obviously I was not gonna do. We all ignored her and continued despite knowing that would only provoke her even more. But I guess that day everyone wanted to provoke and poke at her and see how far she could go because everyone was simply done with her behavior. Sometimes we even felt bad because she was a widow and though she had 3 sons, no one was ever seen visiting her. But then she would snatch a burger from a teenager's hand or try to hit a dog that was barking loudly, and we would all go back to hating her. As I grilled the steak, I could hear her scream some more, this time threatening to come and stop me herself if I did not do what she said. I shook my head and continued on, knowing that with so many people there was no chance she could actually harm anyone. She quiets down after this, and we almost think she is done harassing us until we hear sirens blazing in the distance. I look up and this Karen is standing in the middle of the road with the biggest smirk on her face, and I'm not even lying. I legit burst out in uncontrollable laughter at her idiocy. That seemed to piss her off even more, but the police cars have arrived by then, and we can all hear her telling the officers how we are cooking illegal animals that is making her dizzy, and she also even had a seizure supposedly because of us. I turn around to face the guests and we have the same look on our face. I look back and the police officers also seem to be struggling to tell her that barbecue parties are not illegal and no, they cannot arrest anyone for throwing one. I make eye contact with one of the younger officers who shakes his head at me. I cannot even begin to imagine how many times this Karen might have called these poor officers. Anyway, I hold up a piece of steak as a silent invitation and the officer grins softly before he looks back, his stance suddenly defensive. A gunshot rang in the neighborhood. I grabbed my wife and girls and ducked behind the wooden table that we bought for this occasion. Our guests are scrambling to find space to hide as the Karen finally goes crazy and shouts in the distance that we must obey her, and if she says the party stops, the party has to stop. I don't know what the police officers are doing, but I hear their voices trying to pacify her. Through the gaps in the wooden panels, I see this psychotic woman walking up to our house with a shotgun in her hands. She looks like she is completely mad, aims the shotgun and fires a shot in our direction that thankfully misses. My blood runs cold until I see 3 officers jump at her from behind and one even uses a taser to zap her. We all finally take a breath of relief and get up from our positions. The Karen is dragged to the car and placed inside as the young officer comes to check up on us. I ask him what will happen to her and he says he is not sure, but he will update us if he gets to know anything. Sometime later we are told that the Karen would be placed in a mental institution as her mental health was found to be bad and she has a hefty list of mental issues. We all do feel a bit of sympathy for her, but more than that, we are all just glad that she is out of our hair. Now I can throw Korean barbecues without the fear of crazy Karens, and our neighbors can have a loud husky that my girls love to play with. And yeah, Ripe Stars, ironically, maybe that is the best thing that could have happened to OP in this situation, because hopefully now Karen gets the mental help she needs. Let's hope that things will get better in the future for the entire neighborhood. But either way, if you enjoyed this story, then please don't forget to like the video and maybe even post a comment, because that would help me tremendously. The next one is titled, Am I the A-hole with my neighbors? I recently relocated to Orlando from Miami. I moved to some apartments that most would consider really nice. Not high-end or anything, but definitely nice. Miami was just too expensive, which is the reason for my move. So, because I work from home and I have 2 dogs, I wanted to get a 2-bedroom apartment. One that can be an office that I can work from and one for me to sleep. After having my office in the same room I slept in, my last home still lived with my mom, it felt suffocating, like if I never got to escape work. This has been much better for me mentally, and I feel like I'm actually leaving work after I close my laptop. So I've been here about a month and recently saw a family moving in. I'm very introverted, so I did not introduce myself or anything. The only time I really ever have contact with anyone is when someone is walking their dog at the same time I am and our puppy wants to say hello to each other. Very quick small talk and then we are on our way. Today, as I was going back inside after walking my dogs, I saw the wife and I just gave a friendly smile, nothing more. So I decided I should throw the trash out before I clock in for the day, just to get it out of the way. As I was walking back to my apartment, the wife stopped me to introduce herself. I introduced myself as well, and she then asked if I lived with a girlfriend or anything. I told her no, it is just me and the pups. She gave me a strange look that I can only describe as annoyed. She asked if my apartment had 2 bedrooms, I told her yes, that there are 2 bedrooms. She asked me why I wanted 2 bedrooms when I live alone and explained to her the office/sleeping thing I mentioned above. Now this is the part where I may be the a-hole. She said that it was really inconsiderate and rude to bigger families to take up a 2-bedroom apartment by myself, that her family of 4, husband, wife and 2 kids, have to share a 1-bedroom because people like me decide to steal the 2-bedroom apartments. I said that it sucks that you feel that way, but there is nothing I can do. She said I could trade apartments with her. I thought she was joking, so I just started laughing, not a nervous laugh or anything, I just genuinely found her suggestion hilarious. I then said that her living situation does not concern me, and if she wanted a 2-bedroom apartment, she should have looked harder. She said she was gonna report me to the building, and I said that she should include a report me to DeSantis, the Florida governor, while she is at it. I went inside and left her there screaming like a crazy person. Am I the a-hole? And a user in the comments said, "Not the a-hole, immediately report this as harassment to the building management. You need to document this before she starts spewing lies, and I would also recommend getting a camera for inside your apartment that records both audio and video, because I would not be surprised if she starts complaining about your dogs barking in an effort to get you evicted. Cover your rear and start preparing for war." Commenter number 2, I used to live in Orlando and I am looking to move back once my PR kicks in. I frequently look at both rental and housing prices because while I plan to buy, I don't know if we are going to find something right away. So renting may be in the cards for us. With that being said, there are loads, I mean tons of 2+ bedrooms available across the city. This woman cornering and berating you is odd, but also considerably more odd when she can simply move elsewhere. You are obviously not the a-hole for living how you live and not caring about a literal stranger's living situation. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I would love to hear what you think about this story. Please let us know in the comments if you think whether OP is the a-hole or not. Either way, and now the update to this whole thing. First off, I want to thank every one of you guys for your message and comments. I really did think for a moment I may have just been an a-hole to the lady, but I guess it's just a crappy situation due to the affordable housing issue going on. So to update you guys, I did not report her. Although she probably deserves it, I decided against it. She's probably some angry mom who more than likely had her back against a wall with everything life has thrown at her. And yes, she was being unreasonable, but I can imagine the stress of a parent is bad. This is not me excusing her, but trying to empathize. With that being said, she did piss someone else off, not sure if for the same reason as me, but I heard her screaming at someone else. I guess the guy she screamed at decided to report her to management. I have not seen any moving trucks or anything, but I have only seen the husband and the kids leaving the apartment. It looks like life is going on as usual, but to avoid eviction after having just moved in, I can only assume the husband has set some boundaries regarding her yelling at people. Sorry if it's not a juicy update, but it's just a crappy situation for her and her family, and she was probably stressed to a boiling point. Thanks to the guy that did report her though, the rest of the residents living here can at least be at peace without her craziness and entitlement. The next one is titled Grandpa Revenge. My grandpa was blind but lived in a senior community. They had Agnes come in and clean for him. So we get a call from his housekeeper that he had died. She called us after she had him cremated. We were totally pissed. We went to his place. All our information and photos were gone. She had taken the sheets, the pillows, pots and pans, anything that was not nailed down. Grandpa had money stashed in the place. Only my dad and grandpa knew where he had hid it. And it was gone. He was my dad's grandpa, but we called him Grandpa. My dad found out that Agnes had come into some money. She bought a newer car for cash and a vacation. The car she bought was something she always wanted. My dad is Italian and non-violent revenge is in his blood. He then waits for her to go on vacation and the idiot left her car door unlocked. He shoved dead fish, rotten tomatoes and rotten eggs under any place he could find. Oh, and also, it was a very hot summer day. She then came back 10 days later and she couldn't get rid of the smell. She could not sell it and she couldn't stand the smell to drive it. This was in the 70s. Agnes told the county he did not have any relatives. The management company had nearest relative wrong. We lived 2 hours away. We did go to the police and there was no way to prove that he had the money. And yes, there are a lot more things he could have done, but that's what he chose. It's a true story. The next one is titled The Wife and the Car. The happy, years ago I used to be married to, she who must not be named in my family, for the purposes of brevity we shall call her Alice. Somewhat significant age gap when we got married. I was 27 and Alice was 19 at the time. We had our share of ups and downs, and during one particularly hard time, about a year after we got married, we were sunk in credit card debt and had to move in with her mother, who had a whole bunch of chronic medical problems and no insurance. Stepdad is a shade tree mechanic who was not bad at it actually, but could not get regular work because he had medical problems all of his own. Move in, cut some costs and help the family. It's the right thing to do, right? The problem was Alice and I could not seem to both hold jobs at the same time. She would get laid off a week before I would start a new job and vice versa. After about 9 months of this, I was like, screw it, I'ma get all the jobs. I get a job working weeknights, I get a weekend job. The temp service I signed up with was really aggressive and got me decent weekday jobs on a regular basis. The only problem was these jobs were over an hour away from her mom's, and I would be so dead tired from working, I would crash at my brother's place, which was 10 minutes away from the next city over. I would only be able to go home to see Alice every few days and then have to get up a few hours later so I could beat the rush hour into work. 4 months pass and we find ourselves slowly inching from the red into the black. One day Alice lets me know that she got a job. It's about 20 minutes away and only I have a working car. She has friends that can give her a ride when I'm not home, and I take her to work or pick her up every chance I get. This goes on for about a month. Finally she says, I think I need my own car. It's all good, she's an independent girl and I can see how hard it is for her to be so dependent on other people. I do some quick math and figure it would take about 4 months for us to get enough money together to get a decent beater that won't die in a year. She nods her understanding. I see her disappointment and my man pride cannot take it. I level up and go beast mode. I start taking side jobs, mostly construction, with a friend of a friend who pays on a per day basis to fill out the times when I have blanks on weekdays when the temp agency has not got anything for me and I pull double shifts for the weekend job. I sleep an average of 4 or 5 hours a day. 3 weeks later I have purchased a car for her, a cute little 4x4 that I saw on Craigslist, mechanically sound but was dirty AF. I park it at a friend's place and over the course of a week give that grimy idiot the most comprehensive cleaning of its life. You could have eaten off the wheel wells, I kid you not. My good buddy Nathan springs for some cheap but nice visuals, wheel paint, seat covers, floor mats, etc. and we make it look even better. When we move it out of the garage, my friend's mom swears it cannot be the same car and I have to prove it to her. So I leave my car with Nathan and I drive home in her car. Timing is perfect. I'm about 10 minutes away from home when Alice calls me on my cell phone. She wants to go get some groceries. I let her know I'll be there in a bit and park by the curb one house down. I knock on the door and tell her to come out so we can go. She steps out and looks around. Where's your car? Left it at Nathan's. What did you drive? That. I point at the car. Whose car is that? Yours. She takes a couple of seconds to process that single word and then her jaw drops and Alice runs back inside screaming, Mom, OP got me a car. The set, a couple of years go by. Alice has learned how to use a manual transmission because her baby has one. Between myself and her stepdad, Alice has learned to change the oil herself and even took an active part in replacing the brake pads and all 4 shock absorbers on her baby. She bathes her baby herself, she has learned to take care of her baby. Mother-in-law's medical problems are mostly manageable with meds now, and stepdad is getting almost regular work thrown his way by friends and previous customers. We have moved out of her mom's place and I am only working 2 jobs now. Credit card debt is down by 80% and Alice also has a steady job and is thinking of going back to school. And then I find out she is cheating on me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. There is no third time. There must be payback. My man pride demands it. So the mat, a week after the nuke drops on our marriage, I've worked out the problem. She has already gotten her stuff and moved out by then. So I call her up to meet. Lunchtime, her work. Just to talk, I say, there is a little pseudo-eco-industrial picnic area right by the building she works at, and there is a fair amount of foot traffic, in other words, witnesses. There is some chit-chat and she makes a vague appeal to work things out by dragging my dead dad into it. Hell no. You don't have the right to do that. You had a 1% chance, but that just flat out dropped it to 0. I cut her off mid-sentence. I'm taking the car. Your car. What? The pink slip is in my name. I am taking back my property right now, and if you don't hand over the keys right now, I'm gonna report it stolen to the police. But you gave that car to me! I'd been talking in a normal conversational tone up until this time, but her betrayal once again rams into my chest. My voice hardens. I did not give the car to you. I gave the car to my wife. Her brain still is not firing on all cylinders. She asks, but how will I get to work? Get your boyfriend to drive you. I'm still looking at her, her face goes slack as she realizes that I am serious. And I am not kidding. I take the keys, get into her baby and drive off. I look at her as we pass. She still has the same look on her face and I drive all the way home with the biggest crap-eating grin on my face. And yeah, Ripe Stars, if you still enjoy these revenge stories, then please don't forget to subscribe to my channel because that would mean a lot to me. Either way, I hope you enjoyed today's video and I will see you again tomorrow.